name is Morris Stetson, and I'm the assistant moderator. Oh, is that better? Okay. Due to unforeseen circumstances, Mrs. Irwin will not be able to preside at this deliberative session as she has come down with COVID. I have been duly sworn in as assistant moderator and shall preside at this deliberative session. Please note the exits, and please turn off or silence your cell phones. Chairman Darling, will you please lead us with the Pledge of Allegiance?
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing for the singing of the national anthem by Bella Osgood, Jay Page, Noel Beauchesne, and Desiree Beauchesne. I'd now like to introduce the school board members. Chairman Jenna Darling, Vice Chair Steve Morris, Tim Beard, Mr. Bert Spalding Sr., and William Wilkinson. Also, Newport School District administrators, Donna Magoon, Brian McCain, Diane Mulholland, Kerry Finnegan, Shannon Martin, Eric Pelling, David Bailey, Robert Clark, Chad Howe, Rodney Page, and Caleb Godwin. Unless there is any objection from the legislative body, I will allow non-resident members of the school district to address the body if need be. An overview for the second session for voting. It will be on March 14th, and it is just voting. Absentee ballots are available at the school district office at Toll. I'd like to read the First Amendment. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof or abridging the freedom of speech or the press or the right of the people peacefully to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. And to reaffirm what the rules are for the meeting, speakers will stand, be recognized by the moderator, come to the microphone to speak. Everyone gets one chance to speak, and if afterwards somebody would like to speak twice, they will be acknowledged. Also, people submitting amendments for the article will submit 2 written copies. Warrant articles can be amended, but only the amendment is germane to the main article. There is no reconsideration as we are not voting at this time. Amendments will be voted on in the order they were presented. This allows for the article to be put on the final warrant as amended by the body at this deliberative session. Okay, I will be moving Article 1, Election of Officers. To choose a moderator, clerk, and treasurer for the ensuing 1 year, and to choose 1 member of the school board for the ensuing 3 years, and 1 member for the ensuing year. May I have a second? Are there any questions on the motion?
Paul Brown, Bascom Road. Just wondering, I know the closing was last night at 5 o'clock for this. Could you list who is running for those positions?
Yes. For a school board, Jenna Darling is running for 1 year. Timothy Beard is running for 3 years. Virginia O'Brien Irwin is running for moderator. Robert Clark for clerk. Robert Scott for treasurer. Scott? I'm sorry. So, may I have a second? There was a second from Lee Dufour. Article 2, who will be
Good morning. My name is Jenna Darling, and firstly, I would thank you all very, very much for being here. Thank you. I will speak louder. Thank you very much for being here on this very cold morning. I would like to move Article 2, the operating budget. Shall the Newport School District raise and appropriate as an operating budget, not including appropriations by special warrant articles and other appropriations voted separately, the amounts set forth on the budget posted with the warrant or as amended by vote of the first session, for the purposes set forth therein, totaling $21,425,377. Should this article be defeated, the default budget shall be $20,676,544, which is the same as last year, with certain adjustments required by previous action of the district or by law. Or the governing body may hold one special meeting in accordance with RSA 40:13, Roman numeral 10 and 16, to take up the issue of a revised operating budget only. Note A, the above operating budget includes the sum necessary to fund a one-year collective bargaining agreement reached between the Newport School Board and the Newport Support Staff, the NSS-NEA, which calls for the following estimated increases in salaries and benefits. For year 2023-2024, the estimated increase is $332,677. A favorable vote on this article shall be considered not only the approval of the proposed operating budget for the 2023-24 fiscal year, but also the approval of the cost items set forth under Note A above. Such sums representing the additional cost attributable to the increase in salaries and benefits required by the new agreement over those that would be paid at current staffing levels in accordance with the most recent collective bargaining agreement. The Newport School Board recommends this article. The tax impact is $1.85, and majority vote is required. Is there a second? Okay. Could I have the next slide, please? Okay. I think all of you have seen there's a very large book at the table that you came in. This is all of the hard work that the administration has put forward in bringing this budget forward. It's broken down by department. The administration has chosen to restructure the budget to make it a more streamlined design, and all of that information is in here along with explanations. So I encourage you, for some light reading on a cold night, to grab that. Okay. This is just an overview of what the operating budget includes. I mentioned the Newport support staff contract. It also includes increases in books and printed materials of $50,000, additional security cameras and computers for $42,936. We need to move a partner room that is currently located in the CTE out of the CTE into the middle high school. That cost is about $130,000. Just as we are all feeling the increases in costs in heat and electricity, so is the school district. We have an increase in electricity of $79,064 estimated, as well as heat, an estimated increase of $39,340, as well as our CTE bond and interest payment. We are looking for some new positions that are desperately needed. A high school English teacher and a high school math teacher. The costs of those positions are $81,921 with everything included. Increases in paraprofessionals at the middle school and high school, a CTE education and behavioral science teacher, a health science technology teacher, as well as an additional CDL driver and CBC driver for our transportation staff. Can I please have the next slide? I would like to go over the support staff negotiations. The salary increases for our support staff, which is estimated at $270,457, and an increase for admin assistants of $34,417. And you can also see the increases to FICA and New Hampshire retirement. The total cost for this support staff contract is an estimated increase of $369,447. To explain how can I please have the next slide? Thank you. To explain the structure of the contract, on the left is the current step and pay scale for the 2022-2023 school year. You can see there are 7 steps. In the proposed contract for the 2023-2024 school year, which is on the right side of the slide, you will see that there is basically step 2 from this current year's contract is now step 1. So there's a 90-cent increase across the levels. So levels have shifted up 1, and then we added steps 8 and step 9. Okay, I will now turn it over to Vice Chair Steve Morris to go through the last 2 slides. Thank you.
Good morning. Steve Morris, Vice Chair for School Board. Just want to look over our proposed budget for FY24 by line item. So if you look down, you'll see we have lines 1100 through 5100. And as you look on the right column, you'll see anything represented in parentheses is a decrease in the budget. And so you may be asking yourself, for instance, on line 1200, why is special education losing $513,910? It is not actually losing it. It's just because we have, working with our budget analyst, Diane, she has correctly put programs where they should belong. So we've consolidated some programs up at the administrative level, and that's why you see such a large decrease. Even though it's not a decrease, that line is decreasing, but it's being moved throughout administrative lines. And so you can see as we look down, it'll give you a great summary of where the $1,289,827 increase comes from the FY24 budget that we're proposing. And if you go to the next slide, please, you will see that the default budget at the bottom, the total increase, if the budget that we have proposed fails, we will still have an increase of $540,994. And what that is, it comes out to be in a difference of $748,833 between the default budget and the proposed budget. I'm now going to turn over to the board members to continue speaking on this. I'd first like to turn it over to Mr. Spalding.
Put this budget in a summary and a short statement. Last year's budget was $20,135,550. The support staff contract added to that number would add $332,677, or 1.65%. Then adding the budget increases, $957,150, would add another 4.75%, for a total of 6.4%. We brought the support staff up to a comparable rate with surrounding school districts like you, fuel oil, electric costs, 3% to the NTA, and then raises for support staff, SAU staff, etc. That all being said, that is a cheap, inexpensive budget for this year. You may also recognize that it is a relatively short warrant articles, and the answer is the board decided that using other articles to set aside your money, we would rather ask you for it when we needed it. Warrant articles that allow the surplus at the end of any year, we can return it to reduce taxes. One article would have allowed us to hold that money and to use it for things that we thought were necessary. But if we did that, it would not have been with your approval, because your approval is for what you're buying tonight. So my point is, it is a frugal budget. It is something that we need to and should support. History. Certainly we know a little bit about history. Let's learn a little more right now. If you can see the 383 on this piece of paper, was the asking price in 2018. We are 48% of that request. The 486 in the upper left-hand corner, we are 38% of that request. We could double this budget and still be 25% less than that request. Then comes the mind blower at $5.55 per thousand. We are 33% of that request. We could triple our request. I ask you to understand the history of things that have failed, and we are not asking for failure, we are praying for success. The school district, as I think most of us are cognizant of, are at the bottom of the barrel, and we need to come up. So by bringing the support staff up to a competitive wage, we are in hopes that we can put those people in the classrooms and change the way we're headed. If you were to look historically at where we were and where we are now, you can see that we took steps down. We now need to take steps up. This is not a one-year change. This is going to have to be long-term. We do not have the right to deprive these children of the best education we can give them, and that has to be competitive with other school districts in the state. So somewhere we have to be frugal and find a way to solve the problem, to head us back up that ladder to someplace in the middle that is comfortable, one that we can afford, and one that we can sustain, and ones that do the children better. Thank you.
William?
Good morning, everybody. For anybody who doesn't know me, Bill Wilkinson, school board member, also a resident of the town. I didn't put together all of the specifics. Yeah, better. I didn't put together all of the specific numbers. That's what we have Bert for, the percentages. I certainly didn't look through all, or put together to present to you all the details of the budget. That's what we have administration for. I want to talk in general about the budget and why I believe it needs to be supported. Everybody on the board and the administrative team, we all understand what everybody's going through. We know your taxes are already higher because of the increase in the assessments. We know your grocery bill's higher. We know your electricity's higher. Your fuel for your car, your fuel for your home. It's important as we look at this budget to remember all of those things are higher for the school as well. And even more importantly, not just higher for the school, but higher for the people that we employ. So when we look at the price tag on the support staff contract, for years we have been under budgeting our support staff. And as Bert is quick to point out, that has really hurt us as far as the education that we're able to offer our kids. Bert mentioned that the contract makes us comparable to other school districts. It actually makes us very competitive, not only to other school districts, but to employers in the private sector, which is often a challenge in the public sector. Oftentimes, private sector jobs pay substantially more than the public can. So, like I say, I mean, that's just my general support. We all get it. Life's expensive. Like I say, so it is for the school, and more importantly, so it is for the people that we employ. We need to take care of the people we employ so that they can take care of our kids. That's our obligation as a town. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman Darling?
Thank you, Maura. I've been at several of these deliberative sessions now, and this is the first time I will be speaking not as a board member. But I would like to also address the paraprofessional and support staff contract because it is a substantial portion of the $748,000 difference between the proposed and the default budget. I know that none of this will be new to many of you that are here today, but that's okay. I'd still like to speak to it for those that may watch this at home. For those of you that don't know, I have a son that has special needs and does require the services of a paraeducator. And while this contract for support staff is not about him, they are such an important part of our team. And a question was recently posed at a board meeting of why not have the contract, the support staff contract, separate from our operating budget warrant article and have it stand alone. And I'm hoping that by the end of me speaking that answer will be self-explanatory. And I know that support staff contract supports people other than paraprofessionals, but the substantial cost is for paraprofessionals, so that's what I'm going to speak to. So I looked up what was a paraprofessional, and I came across an article from Education Week from June 15th of 2022 entitled Paraprofessionals, as the backbones of the classroom, they get low pay and little support. I'm going to read a portion of this. Paraprofessionals are known as the backbones of the classroom for their work supporting student learning and well-being, but they report feeling underpaid and overworked, a perennial issue that's only getting more dire as inflation soars and schools struggle to fully staff classrooms. Paraprofessionals say the job has become more demanding in recent years as school leaders rely on them to help cover staffing shortages that have been exacerbated by the pandemic. Nationally, the number of paraprofessionals has more than doubled over the past 3 decades. In 2018, there were 825,000 paraeducators nationwide. So then I went and did a little job hunting to see what the responsibilities were for a paraprofessional in our area. And I have a couple to read. Settle in. One school district lists these as the responsibilities for a paraprofessional. Provide instructional assistance to individuals or groups of students while in the special education or regular education classrooms. Provide for the safety and well-being of students assigned to individual for supervision. Observe and respond to inappropriate behaviors of students. Provide support to the teacher by setting up work areas, displays, classroom materials, and any items as directed. Work under the direction of a teacher as they may help to teach subjects as deemed appropriate by the teacher. Follow direction of the classroom or special education teacher in meeting the academic, social, emotional, and behavioral needs of the students. Consult with teachers on a regular basis concerning program and material needs of the students. Prepare instructional materials as directed. Provide a variety of clerical and supervisory duties as assigned by the building principal and special or regular education teacher. Assist students with special physical and emotional needs as determined by the student's IEP, or individualized education plan. Perform related duties as assigned. Assist with students with personal needs as determined by the teacher. Paraprofessionals work under the direction of a teacher to offer support to smaller groups of children. They may help to teach subjects, support appropriate behaviors, and/or offer a variety of support for the classroom. One-on-one paraprofessionals provide support for only one child who has special needs, cognitive, emotional, or behavioral. More responsibilities that I found included to function independently, demonstrate flexibility and personal integrity, follow and implement lesson plans as provided, carry out extra duties. I will not keep going because that list is very long, but I found one posting where the benefit for applying for this posting was that this child had no serious behavior issues and required no toileting assistance. That's your job responsibility as a paraprofessional. And please, if you could also cover a recess duty or a lunch duty or a bus duty as well. And please, can you do all this and you could potentially get paid more at a fast food restaurant or at a grocery store, depending on your experience. I have often, maybe not often, I have sometimes heard the phrase, just a paraprofessional. All of our superheroes, or all of our paras are superheroes that just don't wear capes. I know that, but now you should know that now too. They work and to support our students during their toughest moments. And they execute a job that many of us would turn down. So I'm thankful every day for the support staff in our schools. Not just for my son, but for everyone who needs them. And to be honest, many of them may not know the impact that they have on a child's life. I recently had a conversation with my son and I asked him the question, who do you really care about? Who's somebody in your life that you really care about? His first answer was me. Good answer. His second answer was his para. A para that he no longer has and he misses very dearly. I don't know if that person knows the impact that they've had on my son's life or on our family's life. So why can't we pull this para contract out and make it as a separate warrant article? Well, historically, at least since I've been here, it seems that they don't pass. That we will approve a budget, but won't approve a one-year support staff contract. So we need electricity, we need oil, we need propane, we need to take care of our teachers, absolutely. But we need to take care of our support staff. This contract is a good start, but it's just that, it's a start. So I hope that you will approve this operating budget, that you will approve the support staff contract, and that you will say thank you to a support staff, an administrative assistant, a paraprofessional, a teacher. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Morris?
Thank you. I just wanted to highlight, so not only for our support staff, it's professional, paraprofessional, so they're professionals. And if you look, when you're driving through Claremont, the McDonald's sign had almost the same price that we're paying professionals to take care of our children. And so for me, that's what this contract does, is it shows that we respect and trust the people that we hire to educate our children. I also want to highlight, not only is there a need for paraprofessionals, but you'll see with the operating budget included two more teachers at the high school. If you haven't been watching any of our board meetings where we discussed the budget, we had 22 high school teachers 4 or 5 years ago, and now we're down to 16. At the high school right now, we have currently just over 30 students that have a full schedule. That means that they have classes and instead of going to like a homeroom 2 or 3 times a day. And so not only is this budget including raises for the paraprofessionals, but also brings in those 2 teachers at the high school, as well as 2 teachers at the CTE, which is blossoming and blooming and is a perfect opportunity for our young men and women, our students, to exit the education system and go right to work in some cases. And then also at the bottom of the new positions, and it might go unnoticed to most of the town, but there's an additional CDL driver and an additional school bus, or a school van driver, SBC driver. I think that's for vans, if I'm correct. So that's 2 more drivers. If you don't understand right now, our transportation is teetering. We have 4 facilities that we're working out of, and we don't have enough drivers, and it's a nationwide thing. So it's not just because of Newport. There's a nationwide shortage of CDL drivers. And so I ask that you take that into consideration to help us get the kids to school safely and properly with a proper amount of drivers and with our equipment that's been safely inspected, which they do day in and day out, and it's a thankless job. And I want to make sure that while we need the paraprofessional raise, we also need the additional teachers and the additional drivers. Thank you.
Does anybody want to speak to this article? Mr. Brown?
Paul Brown, Bascom Road. First, I'd like to say that I do support the para contract. I think it's a good start. It's good we're almost competitive with McDonald's in Ocean State. But I also want to tell you, my daughter was a substitute para in this district, and I think she does all right. But she probably will never step in the building again. I'm hoping that after the passage of this contract, something will be done about behaviors, and this budget will address that somehow. So that's the first thing. The second thing, last year, the top administration was fairly gutted in 211 for Richards, and I'm wondering what this budget does for that.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak to the article? Yes, sir. Oh, I'm sorry. Is there a reply? No? One moment. Oh, go.
best that I can. Steve Morse. Thank you, Mr. Brown. So behaviors we've been looking into at the school board meetings as well. We do have the SRO back into the building. We do have planned for security cameras, upgrades to help us to watch. And then having the paraprofessionals staffed fully will help with behaviors, because right now we're not fully staffed. So it does help, but as far as a line item specifically for behaviors, we don't have that. Now for the 211 out of 211 that you mentioned, as I mentioned high school teachers and CTE teachers, so we got to look across the entire spectrum. But we have taken steps this year. We've moved the preschool back into the building so that they're getting acclimated with the students and with the school, and that provides them with a better structure in the sense of the cafeterias right there. And so that helps along with that, with the 211. And then as well as the paraprofessionals, again, getting the proper staff, getting the right person at the right job at the right time will help with that. But as far as addressing specifically 211 to highlight a line item, I would have to say that it goes back to the paraprofessionals and getting the right person in the right job to help the teachers, because as Jenna mentioned in some of the job descriptions, a lot of it is managing classrooms, managing individual children that they may be assigned. And so that will help us, because we can't just focus solely on the elementary school. We have to focus across the spectrum of all the different schools that we have in the district. And so we're making small steps to improve the elementary school through the paraprofessional contract, through increase in security across for everybody, because that just adds safety for the teachers. That's our goal. One of our goals is to increase safety, not just for the students, so that the teachers feel safe, which will help the environment. And so I can't, unless the superintendent can come up and specifically address a line item, then I'll turn it over to Ms. Magoon.
Thank you. Donna Magoon, Interim Superintendent for the Newport School District, obviously. Thank you very much for that. If I was to say to you that we were unaware of the behaviors that were occurring in our building, I would be lying to you. And one of the things I always said is I'm very transparent. When I first came in with my admin staff, that was one of the things that we really wanted. We noticed right off that we were having some issues. So this year, we've been slowly putting things in place. And so with our budgets, some of the things that we're looking at, right, is with our contracts, it's going to help us get more people into our buildings, right, more paraprofessionals working with our students. So instead of currently putting out fires, we're going to prevent fires, right? So by having paraprofessionals inside the classroom working with our students, knowing those triggers, they can assist with helping those kids have some type of calming or some type of activity, whether it's just going for a quick walk, so that way it doesn't cause ruckus in the entire classroom. So we're looking at that piece. The second thing is we're also looking at our curriculum, right? You notice that in our line items we put money aside for curriculum books. So what was happening is we did an additional I believe it was $50,000, and that was across the board, right? So we're looking at what curriculum are we currently using and what can we put in place to help with our scores, making sure our teachers and our staff are all teaching the same curriculum. So if you're in third grade and you're teaching 3 different programs, you know, we need to make sure everybody is teaching one program and that they're getting the training, right? So we're not just going to give you a program and say, here's your program. We're going to give you a program and we're going to give you professional development around that program. And that's something that we have to do over time, because again, when we started in, everything was already in place. So we're looking at these things as this year has gone on. The second thing is we're looking at turnover, right? So it's very hard to be able to come from 211 to bring our scores up if every year we're having to retrain staff all over again, right? So that's another piece that we're looking at is our turnover rate. How can we keep our paraprofessionals, our, teachers, any of our staff, because they're all valuable, our, custodial staff, how can we keep them in our district, right? Because it's all of our kids, and we're going to be all teaching all of our kids. So whether the child's in the classroom or they're walking in the hall, the interaction they have with every adult is an educational one and is a positive one. And so we're looking at how can we keep our staff in and not have the turnover that we've been having after the years, over the years. One of the things that we're trying to change is Newport is known as a training grounds, right? So everybody comes into Newport when they first start teaching. We give them all kinds of professional development. We train them, and we train them so well that they're hired by other districts. And we need to prevent that, right? We need to be able to train our staff, keep them together, build those relationships between our staff, build those relationships between the students and the children, and then we'll start to really see change. So I think it's going to, and I think Mr. Spalding said it perfectly, it's not something that we can do in 1 year, it's not 2 years, but we can chip away, and that's what we're starting to do. We're starting to chip away at these things, adding curriculum, bringing in more paras that can help support our teachers in the classroom. And then professional development. This year, we've done a switch, right? So normally, and again, transparent, I've been in many districts where professional development comes up, and it's been, oh no, what are we going to do with the paras? Well, let's just stick them with the teachers, right? Now, we know that's not how it works. So we've actually brought in someone that whenever we have a professional development day, their focus is strictly for paraprofessionals. So teaching them about behaviors in the classroom, how to handle certain behaviors that they see. If you're working with a student, how to read an IEP, those types of things. So we're offering those trainings to our paras to help support them and help keep them in. And then eventually we'll see our scores start to rise, and we'll have staff that'll stay. Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Morrow, and then Mr. Lund.
Ken Morrow, I live on Willow Street. Following up on that conversation, everything I just heard deals with staff and the school and us doing the training. When are you going to deal with the delinquency in the student? If those kids don't belong in that class and they're deleterious to the rest of the room, why aren't they removed? Regardless of what the state's rules are, okay? If they're bringing down the rest of the education, they need to be removed from that environment permanently. Let the rest of the kids and let the rest of the teachers and the paras have a good experience. Move them on. It used to be done, but now we've gotten smart on the state level. We got to inclusify them. Get them out of there so the rest of the kids can learn. Okay, what are we doing to fight that battle?
Thank you for that question. So what we are looking at is establishing an in-school suspension inside of Toll building so that we'll remove those students from the rest of the population. And then the idea behind having that in-school suspension at the Toll building is so that it's not fun, that they don't sit there on their phones all day long and not do any of their work, and it's like a vacation for them because I'll be frank with you, I was a long-term sub 4.5 years ago, and I agree with you. There's a lot of, here, sit down with this laptop for 30 minutes and then go back to class. Well, the kid now knows he's going to get a laptop if he misbehaves or she misbehaves. And so the goal is to make it so that they understand there are consequences, and it's not funny and it's not fun, and you're not going to go home and sit home and play Xbox for a week while you're suspended. You come back to school, do the same thing, and get sent back home, and then somehow graduate. So these are issues that we're looking at because it needs to be addressed. Well, that's the point is, as a board, so his question was, is it an active or passive? Are we actually going to do anything about it or talk about it? Well, right now I'm talking about it because it hasn't been established yet, right? And I'll turn it over to Interim Superintendent Magoon because she has the finalized, but I want you to understand as a board member, we take behaviors very seriously, and we just talked about it, I want to say at our last board meeting, because it is important to us, and we need to nip it in the bud, and we need these kids to understand when you get out in the real world, there's no timeout, you're fired. Like, you gotta go find a new job. And so we've addressed that as a board, and as far as the specifics of the in-school suspension and the aspect of that, I'll turn it over to Ms. Magoon.
All right, so what we're establishing currently, and the reason why we're talking about it right now, is we have gone through the process of having the fire marshal come in, the health inspection come in, and having all our inspections. We're waiting now for the state to approve the program. So what the program entails is, and it should be a matter of time. I think it's probably, if not approved, last I knew they said it should be a matter of weeks. So what happens is, normally if a child gets suspended from school, they go home, right? So they go home, and of no fault to a family member, that parent has to work, the child may be home by themselves, right? So when they're at home, they have access to play their Xbox or these other things. We've often heard the students say that it is an extra vacation. So what we're going to do is we're taking that piece away. So when a child gets suspended from school, now they're going to go to this other program that we're going to have at Toll. So it's no longer going home. They'll be at this program. And in this program, they'll be dealing with what their behavior is. So they'll be having to do their academics. They're going to have to do some type of learning, whether it's counseling or depending upon what their behavior was. If it's vaping, then they're going to have to speak with somebody about vaping, right? If it's bullying, then it's going to have to be about bullying, right? So we're putting this in place. The second piece, too, is that we just had a survey and a bullying forum, and we took in this information from families, and we just reported out the results last week. So as a team right now, we're working on how to remedy that situation within our buildings. So we are taking care of that. The second piece, in our middle school, we're looking to change up how, like, have an assistant principal, someone that's going to help work with behaviors, right? And so now, to your question about why can't we just move them to another somewhere else, that comes with a hefty cost. That comes with a very hefty cost. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to put things in place here in our district where we have the tools and we have the places for these kids to go. So that way we're not coming to you and saying, our special ed budget or our regular budget is up so high because we have to now outsource our students. We want to keep them in our buildings. We want to be able to train them. We want them to be able to work in our community and be respectful and successful. And so that's what our goal is.
Okay, Mr. Lunn was acknowledged first, and then Mr. Nelson, Mr. Beard. Okay, you want to say something? To the question.
Tim Beard. You want to know I'm not really good at public speaking, but so to address your question about behavior, it's very, very much on my mind, and it was brought up last meeting and discussed, and it will be heavily brought up and will continue to be in the forefront. This room that we're going to do at Toll is going to be a start. I think it's going to help, but I know exactly what you're talking about, 100%. I visited the middle school this week, and some of the things I saw were ridiculous and would never have taken place when I was here 20 years ago. So it's going to be addressed. It's not just going to be talk. I can't speak for all the members of the board, but I will speak for myself, and it will be brought up every meeting probably. We're going to focus on this so that, because you couldn't pay me enough money to teach, and I don't know how these guys do it. I honestly don't, because it's like teaching a zoo. I honestly don't know how you guys do it, and we really appreciate what you do because it's crazy. Can I just answer something about Paul's question real quick? So the reason you don't see money in the budget for Toll itself, or excuse me, Richards itself, the elementary school, is because we could have put more money out of our pockets, out of the taxpayers, into that building. However, because of our placing at 211 or whatever you want to say, we're now a school in need. So the state's going to give us a bunch of money to put into that school to raise up the education there. If they would fund it how they should to start with, we wouldn't have to do any of that. But that, to directly answer Paul's question, that's the only reason we didn't put money into the budget for that building, is because the state has said we have a bunch of money that give you to get the education better there. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Lund, then it will be Mr. Nelson, then it will be you.
John Lund, North Newport. First, I'd just like to say, doing the recording, people stand forward and back and what have you with the microphone, and so it can be on the recording that I'm doing. There seems to be a little bit of a buzz in it, so anybody who's watching at home, the recording, when I edit it, I will equal out the audio and get rid of the hum. So if you can't hear things here, you should be able to hear it in the recording afterwards. I'd like to just address the general budget. My property taxes went through the roof like everybody else's. I don't know if my blood pressure went higher, but I know that this is a huge burden because the tax rate's gone up, and since the valuations have gone up, then that means it's a bigger bump that we have to that we're asked for here. But it's still important. It's essential that we support the kids and that we support the teachers and that we support all the staff that are a part of our schools. But I'm going to harp a little bit on what I do every year, which is the state funding of our education has to be changed, and we have to be the ones who change it. We can't vote against our interest. Our economic survival depends on changing the school funding at the state level here in New Hampshire. I know at the planning board and the selectmen's meetings, they're meeting with people who want to make housing development. But if we get housing development in town that brings kids in, it's going to raise the cost of our education. But we need the housing, but we need to keep the cost of education down. And we can't balance those two unless we get a better funding of education at the state level, which requires us to support people who go to Concord and vote in support of equalizing funding for education in New Hampshire. It's important not only for us to talk about it with each other, it's important for us to talk about it with our representatives, and it's important to talk about it with neighboring towns and other people that we know around the state, so that they will not support candidates who want to privatize education or take funding away from our education or not put equalization into the funding. It's gone on now for 25 years, and we just keep sliding down and down and down. So please, as not only just during election times, but now, contact your representatives and find out what they're supporting, why they're supporting it, and get them to support public education funding across the state and equalizing it, the valuation, so that we get better support along with the other towns, and that everybody in this state, every child in this state, has an equal opportunity to education, not because they live in a poor or a rich town. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Nelson.
Hi, Ben Nelson. Becky and I have been here for a while. And we're farmers, and like a lot of farmers, we're property rich and cash poor. So property taxes hit us hard, and I understand that. The other hat I wear as a county commissioner, and like the schools, we're in the people business. Biggest part of the expense of the budget. 2 years ago, we used to be able to hire food service and laundry people for $10.50 an hour. Those days are over. We had a guy just leave the House of Corrections, got a fast food job on Washington Street, $16 an hour. So to say these paras are competitive, even at this raises, really is, for what they have to do is not up there. And that leads me into the second thing is turnover. And that's why the turnover's there. And the teachers, the administration, it's money. And the turnover, the continuity, our kids went to school here. Our grandkids are now in Richards on their mother's side. They're the fourth generation to go through Richards. But the lack of continuity leads to, I mean, they talk about in-school suspension like they've rediscovered something. I mean, it was back in the day. Roger Carroll was doing it. It's a great tool. In-school suspension works. It needs to go down even into Richards. The behaviors there, from what I hear, are, you know, not something that's advantageous to anybody. But that's all a continuity thing. You have something that works, the administration changes, it goes out for whatever reason, and a big part of the thing is continuity, and a big thing with keeping good people is, and you need to pay them, and it hurts. But that's what I wanted to add, and I would support the budget. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Nelson.
My name is Aaron Cherry. I'm the physical education teacher at Richards right now. I just had one question to go back to, like, the rooms at Toll. I just wanted to make sure that that room was accessible and available to all ages, and, like, so that if a child at Richards has in-school suspension, that would be available to them too. I know that the middle school and high school are a different beast this year, and they have a lot of, you know, revolving doors and issues as well, but I just want to make sure that that room is available for all the grades, because we also have some of the same problems at Richards. Unfortunately, the behaviors are escalating more and more that we see the kids coming in. Could be post-COVID, could be home life, you know, it's all up in the air, but I just wanted to make sure that that type of program is also available for the younger grades as well.
So to answer that question, thank you, Dan. Currently, the program is being approved for 5th through 12th. So it's going to take the 5th grade up through 12th grade. Because of the span in age, you can't have so many kids at certain ages in the same room. So we had to go with a certain group that was the most suspensions. And so this way, you know, it's in-school suspension is already occurring in the buildings. We're talking about out-of-school suspension. So when a child gets out-of-school suspension, that's when they're going to go to Toll. So it wouldn't be in-school suspension at Toll. In-school suspension happens in their individual buildings. Out-of-school suspension will happen at Toll instead of now them going home. And that's going to be a 5 through 12 program currently.
Thank you. Yes.
Hello, I am Angie Cameron, and I am a high school para. I've been in this district for 8 years now, and I just kind of want to give a firsthand account on exactly what we do on a day-to-day basis. Our job, like Jenna said, is very large, and even with the descriptions that Jenna gave you, it doesn't compare to... Oh, I'm sorry. It doesn't compare to, it's just kind of the tip of the iceberg. We do so much more than just what she read off. We help teachers prepare the lessons plans. We support students of all academic walks, not just special ed kids. We support anybody who asks us a question. We will do everything that we can for them. We also go above and beyond on our day-to-day. When there's a problem, those little day-to-day challenges, the first thing many of us say is, what can we do to help? And a lot of us that I know will go above and beyond, even outside of the building, past our working hours. We volunteer to chaperone school dances. We volunteer to chaperone field trips, and we volunteer to help students on the weekends do fundraisers. It's all of those little things, and this operating budget definitely gives us a living wage. We can go to other places and make more monies, but we're here because we want to, and we care about these kids and we care about these communities. And all we're asking is to just compensate us fairly. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak to the article? Yes.
Lisa Frigno, Bascom Road, first grade teacher in Newport. Just a quick clarification. When we were presenting about the budget, it was mentioned that the teachers are getting a 3% raise. That's not accurate, actually. What we did was when we negotiated, we added 2% this year to the base. That means the new teachers coming in, that salary is 2% higher. So then what we did was we took that amount, which is $917, and added that to each step. So each of the teachers who are currently employed in Newport will get a raise of $917 next year, not 3%. I just wanted to talk a little bit about Richards. There was a question about 211 and out of 211, and I know that Bryn Kane has been working really hard this year to bring in something called letters training. I don't remember what it stands for, but it's an intensive training on phonics to help the teachers. We also have a phonics program called Foundations. So there are some little steps that we are taking so that we are all on board. We are looking at a math program for next year. But we are also desperately in need of our support staff. We had a situation just recently in one of our little classrooms, one of our lower classrooms, where a student flipped a table and threw chairs. This is a little tiny student, because that student doesn't have the one-on-one para that's supposed to be there, because we can't hire people for what we're currently paying. I also wanted to talk a little bit about Mr. Beard's comment when he was talking about the boatload of money we're going to be getting from the state. That's great news. When I first came in this morning, I talked to Mrs. Magoon and Chairman Jenna Darling, because I was going to try to amend the budget up $120,000, because I believe we need more support at Richards. In the past year, we have lost 4 special ed case managers at Richards. Because of that, we no longer have the partner program, similar to what they were talking about, the high school, that they have to move. And I believe that that is contributing to some of the behaviors that we are seeing, because now those students who had a supportive program no longer have that. Because we are down 4 special educationers, those students are not getting their needs met. Right now, our case managers are managing between 22 and 24 students. That's an impossible task. They have to teach them, and they have to deal with piles of paperwork. So what that means is our special education students, our students who need the most intensive education, are getting about 30 minutes of specialized instruction 4 days a week. I'm going to say that again. Our students who have the most needs are getting specialized instruction for 30 minutes a day, 4 days a week. Research shows that they need at least double that 5 days a week. But right now, our case managers cannot do any more. I know that Mrs. Magoon and the school board worked really hard to bring this budget in at a rate that they felt could be passed, and I applaud their efforts. And I hope that the boatload of money the state's going to cough up for us will help. But I am concerned about what I am seeing at Richards. Thank you. Oh, I'm sorry. I did want to talk about the paras, because I have a young man in the audience who's too shy to speak. But, and I know this young man, sorry, I'm just going to take your time for one more minute. Since he was in high school, he was a force to be reckoned with on the football field. But the transformation I have seen in his job as a paraprofessional at Richards, last year at our end of the year party, he could not stop talking to me about how much he loves his job and how he feels he's making a difference for students. All of our paras give everything, and they are making a huge difference. And we need to keep the ones we have and find good ones to join them. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else? Yes.
Yes, Ken Marrow again, Willow Street. Just following up on the last thing, everything we hear about education is foundational. Starts at the bottom, works its way up. If we're going to ignore the behavioral patterns from 1 through 5, we're missing the opportunity to structure those kids, inform those kids, and try to help them get through it. The fact that we wait till 6th grade, put them in toll, institutionalize them, it's already too late, okay? Fix it at the lower level, please. And other issues. This school system, majority of it sits in the most visible location in town. In the course of public opinion, or at least in my opinion, I drive by every day going to work in Hanover. The things that I see and where we spend our money is a laughing stock, okay? We've got a building up here, Toll, used to be the high school years ago, elementary school after that, got condemned for education, moved everybody out, couldn't do it. Now it's become a burgeoning hollow for a lot of administration because our administration has ballooned since we did the removal of the SAU when we left Croydon, of which I was on that committee. The admin staff was, in my estimation, about a third of what it is now, to the point that it fit in that little white education building out back, okay? And now it's huge. Every day I go by, Johnson Controls is there, heating, plumbing is there. How much money are we putting into that building that was condemned? Okay, it wasn't good enough for the kids, but we can invest everything we got up there so the admin's got AC, okay? Everybody drives by every day and they see it, where the money's being spent, okay? It's not, we're begging for money for the support staff. I support them wholly, okay? Support them, give them the support they need, deal with the behavioral problems so they can have a good environment to work in, okay? But we're spending a lot of money out here. We can't talk to the town and negotiate with the town on fields, okay? We have to argue about it. We're all after the same dollar, okay? Get on the same page, talk to people, okay? We're trying to get a new rec center. No, we got a free grant, so we're going to put a building out here that's an architectural statement, not a functional business, okay? You can do a lot less building for a lot less money if you just put up the biggest square foot you can buy without making a post and beam architectural statement, okay? But the rest of it, we built a new concession stand down here, okay? I watched the school board meeting that night. 2 days later, we got lied to, okay? Within 2 days, 180-degree shift in how that building was put together. Okay, that's the administration we have right here in the public where everybody sees it every day. Okay, public opinion, represent the town's dollar, do the right thing. Okay, we're all after the same dollar. Talk to the town. Can we do buildings in the same year? Yes or no? Should we negotiate? The bus conversation. We're sharing space. We're sharing this, sharing that. We share in this town. That's what we do to save the same dollars so we can all control our tax impact. Okay. But we don't want to do that. We all have our blinders on. We're self-serving. And that's the way we're going. We got a $20 million budget. Okay? We need to spend the money on the education, inform these kids coming up, yes. However, we need to not be asleep at the wheel and be so self-centered that that's all we focus on. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Scott.
So I've studied this for an entire year now. I've written probably 25,000 words online about it. People read it all the time. And in my opinion, I think you're running out of time here. I think you have about 3 to 5 years to kind of get these various overlapping dynamics under control. We're speaking with John Lunn yesterday about the wonderful work that him and Kathy Huber do on the adequacy of funding. I think we're coming to a tipping point, very much. I see 4 factors that really drive everything within the community. I see a declining quality of life for people in the community. It doesn't impact my family, thank God, but it impacts many people who I care about quite a bit. Public safety, public education, financial controls, socioeconomic impact. Well, what's the solution strategy? The solution strategy, in my opinion, would come first by improving citizen debate and discussion, by improving citizen information and by developing for our managers a more strategic way of looking at how they expend money and how they make management decisions. We spend probably the better part of 2 to 2.5 million totally on our managers. And God bless you, you people do a good job. We live at a very challenging period of time. It's interesting in consulting with so many people. Certain people within the last 4 years have made more money than they have in the last 15, while other people, they've suffered. If I was to make the best decision for our managers today, we need to actually look at things much more comprehensively. So we have this budget today. So this budget is here. Is it a good thing? How does it positively impact other things? How does it negatively impact other things? We need to replace the short-term thinking with kind of a long-term way of looking at it. How do we improve citizen participation? Well, once upon a time, we had a revitalization committee in the community, and that went away. We're going to bring back a thing we call the Newport Sunshine Forum, the new century version of the revitalization committee. We need, when I spoke with people in the community, they feel unsafe coming to public meetings and speaking. They feel unsafe when they post online. They feel unsafe the way people speak with them. It's just not a Newport trend, it's a trend throughout the country. We need to create safe spaces for people to be able to come. And that's hopefully what we're going to do. We need, and whether 2 people come, or 20 people come, or 200 people come, I guarantee you, the people that will come will positively impact this community. Hope John puts it on his television network up there so we can do that. But let me talk about these 4 factors. They're very interesting. I've studied them for over a year. The first is public safety. Newport becomes less safe every single day. I come and go, and I see things in like snapshots as I'm here and there with very different, diverse groups of people, speak different languages, do different things, and I come back here. We have a multi-generational drug culture in this town. We have an entrenched, interstate, if not international, criminal group of people moving through this community all the time. When I walked out of the bank this past summer and I listened to 2 gentlemen on their phones speaking Yoruba, it's a long way to Nigeria. I don't know what they're doing here. I mean, and unfortunately, the criminality and all of the poverty creates for the school district very specific demands. We have a highly transient group of people that come into this district, and that's what we need to discuss in this various points in our forum here. We need to be able to discuss how transient students could become a permanent expense for this district. Our staff works very hard to be able to work through that completely. Public education. Public education is under tremendous stress in America today. 3 years ago, 1.7 million students went to non-public school. That number today is 6 million, soon to be 8 million. 20% of K through 12 no longer go to public school, and that places a very high demand on the staff because now we have a population, a higher population of identified students. Conversely, we have a severe labor shortage that impacts everybody throughout the country. So we look today and we see that 40% less people now are education majors in college. We also see very conclusively massive early retirement of people within the business. And what that means is we have a higher percentage of people who are uncertified and unqualified and are going through various programs that are good. And that's not to disparage anybody. Anybody that comes today and works in public education should be extolled. So what do I have? On one hand, I have a high population of identified students, and I have less qualified people who have the stress of trying to raise our test scores and to do all these things. I look back at this community from 1990 through 2000, maybe 15. God bless our children. They are unbelievably successful. All you need to do is go on LinkedIn and look at these students here. And that came because we had a solid academic core of educators in the community. We've lost that. You can't maintain an academic standard unless you have consistent people. And you can't have consistent people unless you treat them with respect. And there's a lack of that in this community. I don't like the way people talk to each other. I watch the community channel when I'm here, there, and everywhere. We're much better than that. I mean, we need to improve the way that we deal with each other. We need to support these efforts here. I'm almost done. Financial controls. I think what John Lunn and Kathy Hubert has done is absolutely fantastic. And I was talking to John about it yesterday, and he goes, "Oh my God, we actually agree on something?" I said, "Yes, we do. We agree on this." We need that money. Governor Sununu and the legislature need to stop kicking the can down the road. These property poor towns are dying, and I'll explain a little further. The other thing is, we need to make our expenses sustainable. This budget came out at $5.28 on the thousand, and when that was brought to me, I said, "That's crazy. We're not going to do that." We've whittled it down to where it needs to be. The ability to pay has to be a consideration of all of our elected officials in this community today. We have to understand that this is creating elderly and working class poverty in this community. We have to stop being afraid to talk about this subject. Coordinated expenses. Right now we're building a housing project over on Spring Street there. And as John talks about the various ways we need to balance one with the other, that development on Spring Street will push this budget to $23 million. It's going to increase my taxes, your taxes, $600 to $800 forever. Forever. But again, if we're having more money come in, it would actually offset that. Final thing, we need to look at the socioeconomic impact upon the community. Elderly poverty, elderly displacement, elderly homelessness, one of the largest topics today in American society. We are not exempt from that. I have no relatives in this town except my wife. These are your family. I mean, to see these people suffer, they're in my prayers every day. I have to be honest with you. I save the best for last. So with the safety issues that we have in the community, and also the challenges we have with the taxes, you're going to lose in this community a very specific type of citizen, which I've come to call the added value citizen. The added value citizen, individuals of generational wealth, professional standing, are going to leave. Not maybe because of the taxes, maybe because it's unsafe to live here. They're going to be replaced by these out-of-state buyers that are going to come in here, and they're going to be the great savior of the community. They're not going to stay when Corn Pop, the drug dealer, is driving up and down the street on the Vespa scooter like he was this summer. We need to find a way of discussing these things in a deep dive type of way, politely and intelligently. We're running out of time. I mean, and we have to stop kicking the can down the road. I understand your anger, Mr. Merrill. I understand your anger very much. But people need to find a way of coming to a safe space where we're able to work together. Thank you for listening, and I need your support. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Scott. Mr. Wilkinson?
I apologize for taking more time. I'm sure we've probably discussed this article just about to death. Ken, I did want to address your what you pointed out about Toll. I was a custodian at Toll right up until 2016 when they closed it. I was a little taken back, you know, that apparently the general consensus was the building wasn't worth putting any money into to keep our kids there. Like you, I drive by Toll twice a day. like you, even before I got on the board, I saw the Johnson Control trucks, you know. And I just saw the money pouring into that building. And like you, as a citizen, I was appalled. One thing that I think I made pretty clear to administration that's important to note is not only what's in the budget, but what's not in the budget. I was adamant that we're done renovating Toll. We were told it wasn't good enough to fix for our kids. Well, at this point in time, I think it's good enough for administration, and really, I think we're done. You know, that was my one sticking point in the budget. I do want to point out, when the SAU was out back in the White Building, they weren't just in the White Building. They were also scattered in some offices here at the high school. So the entire administrative team didn't fit in the White Building. Am I gonna say that you know, maybe our administrative team isn't a little bit large? No, I'm not going to say that. I believe it may be. I'm not the expert on the subject, but I do want to point out that no, the entire administrative team didn't fit in the White Building. The last thing I wanted to leave, I know I said I was going to leave all the math up to Bert because that's what he does well. As I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, we're all talking about supporting this budget, and I know we all do. I certainly feel that from the crowd. For anybody watching at home, I want to tell you what the difference between the default budget and the proposed budget actually equals. So there's a difference of about $1 per 1,000 of assessed value. In the proposed budget, it's about $1 higher than the default budget. That means for a $250,000 house, the increase would be $250 for the year, $4.80 a week, less than most people spend on coffee at Dunkin' Donuts. So I don't think what we're asking for is ridiculous at all. And I certainly don't think it's a, oh my God, we're going to go bankrupt, you know, kind of situation. I know it hurts to increase any expenses, but that's what it works out to, $4.80 a week. That's not crazy. Thank you.
Thank you, William. Is there anyone else that would like to speak to the article? Seeing no hands. Oh, yes, Mr. Spalding.
Probably the most offensive thing that's happened, as far as I'm concerned, with the tax rate is the Board of Selectmen approved a housing development in the Ruger building, and they gave what equals $300,000 a year for 3 years abatement of taxes. And the rest of the story is the person who bought the building paid good money for it, couldn't find a use for it, now has found a use. When it came to the hearing, I asked, how many kids? And the person, the hired gun for the property owner, said 70 out of 105. It's too much. I used 30 for each kid, for the number of children. I asked that it be researched, and it wasn't. Someone did do some research and came up with Home Builders Association telling how many children there would be. But the real bad thing about this is the $300,000 taken out of the coffers to go to a private enterprise to do housing, subsidized housing, call it. But we don't get that money until after the end of the 3-year period. It was unnecessary. And we, as a school board, will have to take every child in that building and educate them. So the money that could have been had, double whammy. We don't get the money, but we get the liability. So that all said, it's a very perplexing situation that we are in as a community. That being said, we have to do the best we can with the resources that we have. And in a long time that I've sat and watched, I think probably now we're headed in as good a direction as I have seen, at least in the last 12 years. So I hope that we look past all of our baggage and find a way.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak to the article? Seeing no hands, there is a motion and a second. All those in favor, raise your cards. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Article 3.
Steve Morse again. I move Article 3 to hear reports of agents, auditors, and committees or officers heretofore chosen. Second. Do I have a second?
Is there anyone that would like to speak to Article 3? Yes? It's okay. Is there any other business to come before this board? Just a reminder that the second session for voting will be March 14th, 2023, from 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. here in the Newport Middle High School gym. I make a motion to adjourn. Second. All those in favor? Opposed? Abstained? Thank you for coming.